Hey guys, Alex here, otherwise known as Clash with Style, back with another Everdale video for you guys, and in today's video we're going to be jumping in to take a look at everything to do with efficiency. So efficiency in the game is really important because basically it's how quickly you are able to get something done. So I actually had a pretty nice build going on in my village, but I took everything, I stripped it all back, and I made a little bit of a different village for you guys, and today I'm just going to strip everything back and explain exactly why I've placed these buildings where they are, and how this is probably going to be the best way for your efficiency. So in Everdale, there's a few differences between some of the buildings. For example, right here, I have 4 buildings that we class as passive structures, buildings that we do not need to put villagers on, and they are basically, you can just place them anywhere you want in your village, and it's not going to matter one bit at all. We have the beehive and the chicken coop, which are both just going to passively generate their specific resources, so the chicken coop with eggs and the beehive with honey. We then of course have the nectar fountain, that's going to produce nectar for you, and we just got the village treasury here. That's just where your gold goes. That can go anywhere in your village and it really doesn't matter. We then of course also have our villagers' houses. It doesn't matter where these go, you can place them anywhere in the village as long as they're not getting in the way of your active buildings. So taking a look at some of our active buildings, one of the most important buildings in Everdale is of course the study. So the study is the first building we're going to take a look at to see where exactly we can place it to get maximum efficiency. So I had to give a massive shout out to Rodgers from the Everdale Reddit. He came through, he did all the data stuff, all the statistics, he's got all the good numbers, and he worked out where the best placement for all of these structures are, so I could come through and make this video for you guys. So massive shout out to Rodgers. Sadly, I don't think he's actually playing the game anymore, but if you do want to refer to any of his stuff, I will leave links down in the description where you guys can go and check them out for yourselves. So the most important structure in the game is of course the study. The best placement for that is going to be right here. So once you drag your study over, what we want to do is you want to line it up to the corner, and then you want to pull it up by 1 tile. That we have found is the best placement. So we have Rhonda here, my level 10 researcher. Now all she does all day, every day, is sit and do some research. However, now and again, she will be pretty hungry for a bowl of soup. So the best placement for her is right here where I just showed you guys, because she is going to walk directly from where she is studying over to the bottom right hand corner of our village kitchen right here. So this bottom right hand corner, you can see just below this kind of plate of red looking berries, that is where she's going to go. So the placement here for the study is the absolute best placement you guys could possibly have to maximize your study efficiency. Now another one of the key things here in Everdale is your villagers' hunger. Now they are really hungry. It's a ravenous beast that you can never really tame. They're constantly going to be on the hunt for those bowls of soup. So you want to make sure you're constantly giving your villagers the best chance of keeping that efficiency as high as possible. So you'll see right now my soup progress looking pretty good. I have 2 villagers on my pumpkin patches. One is level 10 and the other I believe is only level 3. That is indeed right. So the placement, the best optimal placement here for your pumpkin patches, number 1, and this is the absolute best place you could have it, is right here. Technically, you could actually have it in a better spot, but we do not want to move our study. You'll see our villager just throwing a pumpkin in there. She is going to have a very small amount of space to walk. Of course, if we had our pumpkin patch where our study is, that would be the most optimal placement, but we want to keep the study there because that is the most important structure. Now, the second best placement for our pumpkin patch is not actually over in this corner. It's actually going to be right here, just below our village study, because that again means our villager can simply walk just from this straight up, and it's always going to be this bottom right hand corner of the village kitchen that is going to be the optimal place. That's where you want to make sure you are getting your villagers to walk to. However, if you guys are just like me, you guys probably want to have a pretty village and an efficient village. So I'm all about symmetry here in Everdale, so I'm actually not going to have that second pumpkin patch in the most efficient spot. I'm actually going to drag it over here just so there's a little bit of symmetry going on next to that kitchen. But of course, that is totally up to you guys if you want to do that. If you want the absolute maximum efficiency, you guys should have it in that spot that I did just show you. Now the third pumpkin patch is one of those buildings you don't actually tend to use very often. I found only really when I get Franz the Fixer into my village is when I'm potentially going to need that additional villager on the pumpkin patch. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw that down here. Again, I don't really tend to use it. This spot is probably actually going to be slightly more efficient than this top right hand spot. So I'm going to move my second villager on the pumpkins over to that bottom pumpkin patch. So in your village, there is loads of different places you're able to collect resources. We of course have the Evergroves, we have the stone mines, and we have the clay pits. However, not all of these are the same distance away from the village kitchen as you may think. So there are actually optimal places that you want to have your villagers constantly working. So the most efficient place to gather your wood is actually going to be from this Evergrove over here towards that top left hand side of the base. That is going to be the quickest way to gather wood in your base. The most efficient clay pit is going to be over here towards that top right hand side of the base. And the most efficient stone mine is actually going to be down here towards the south section of the base, which a lot of people I've seen made that mistake. So the difference between these two is this stone mine down here will take 19 seconds, whereas this stone mine up here will take 24 seconds. So overall, that is actually going to knock quite a significant amount of time off of your collection time. Okay, so moving forward into seeing exactly where you guys should be placing your storages, the first one we're going to be taking a look at is over here next to our Evergrove. Now, the best placement you guys can have for your storages is actually going to be right here. This wood storage, the placement on this is the best place you could have because they're always going to throw in from this side right here. So that is the optimal place for your wood storages. But of course, we have two others. So the second best place you guys can have is right here, and the third best place you can have is right here. However, there of course is always differences. If you guys are wanting to have multiple villagers on more than one Evergrove, so if I perhaps have a villager on here and I also have a villager on here, of course I do not want to leave all my storages just on one. So I can then pull that storage over, I can drop it down right here, so the villager that is working on this will once again have a storage directly next to where they are working, and that is again going to increase your efficiency. So the best placement for your clay pit, which of course is just over here towards the right of your kitchen, the number one best placement for your clay pit is going to be this right here, directly in line with your clay pit. Second best is going to be this one right here, and third best is going to be the one around the corner. Now, it's not the end of the world if you guys don't have that exact setup. So if you've ever watched your villager throw the raw material into the storages before, you kind of know they do chuck them in from this right hand side of each storage. So keep that in mind when you are setting up your villages. You definitely don't want to have these storages over at the back, something like this, because the villager is then going to have to walk around, and it's really going to lose you a few precious seconds when it does come to gathering those resources. So last but not least, we do have the stone mine. Strangely enough, we only actually have two storages here for the stone mine rather than the typical three for the wood and for the clay. So these two storages have only, of course, two optimal places you can place them. Number one is going to be right here, and number two is going to be right here. But once again, it doesn't really matter on that specific placement of the storages. Just try and avoid having them round here, something like that, because that is on totally the wrong side, or your villagers might just throw them on the grass and not even get them in the storage like that. Now, the smelter is one of the newest buildings here in Everdale. It did just come in that previous update, and of course we now have this new material called iron, and we want to produce some iron ore from it. The smelter is slightly different to some of our other mines and collectors, so we're going to talk in a little bit of depth about that right now. So iron ore is now a huge material in the game. We want to make sure we're getting loads of that, so we can head over into our valley, we can click on our blacksmith, we can produce iron nails, we can produce reinforced planks, and we can produce iron sculptures. You'll see all of those do indeed require iron ore, and some of them actually require some additional resources. So this for me in my village right now is one of the key things that I want to focus on, so I'm going to make sure I place that as close to my kitchen as possible. But we do also need to remember, alongside that smelter, there is another really important building that you guys cannot forget about. And that is, of course, the warehouse. Now, the warehouse is where you store a ridiculous amount of materials. And you'll see as we scroll through, there is lots of different things that actually tie directly here into your warehouse. And one of those is iron ore. So for the best results, you guys want to make sure you have your warehouse directly next to your smelter so that iron ore can get transported from the warehouse straight over nice and quickly through into your smelter so you can get the quickest amount of iron ore as you possibly can. Now, like I was saying, the warehouse actually does tie into a lot of other structures, so we're going to want to make sure we have quite a few of our other buildings nice and close to our warehouse. So both our figurine workshop and our statue workshop will both tie in directly to the warehouse, so we're going to want to have them relatively close, so once they have finished making those statues, they can directly drop them into the warehouse. Now, the next building I'm going to be talking about is the sawmill. Now, the sawmill doesn't actually tie into the warehouse at all. However, it does tie in, of course, to our wood storages because they need wood to produce those planks. And of course, your villager will need to maintain its hunger. So my placement here on my sawmill is going to be directly between my wood storages and my kitchen just to try and get as much efficiency as possible. So I've moved a few things around here over next to my clay storage. I've actually moved this clay storage from in this position to over here. Again, it's not the end of the world if you do fiddle around with them just to make your village look a little bit better, because that's exactly what I am doing here. Now, once again, we do have the Pottery Workshop. Of course, that does tie directly into our warehouse. Now, that's maybe not the most efficient place to have it, but once again, I do just like to have symmetry in my base, and this was kind of the best thing to place opposite, and it's not too far of a walk just to walk from there over to the warehouse, and we're not going to be producing pottery too much. Usually what I tend to do is I'll produce a lot of pottery all at once, and then that villager won't go back into the pottery until I completely run out. So what you actually can do is, if you find yourself making all of your pottery at once, is you can move your warehouse and the Pottery Workshop directly next to each other, so you're going to get maximum efficiency for that small period of time you're actually collecting your pottery. Now, once again, similar to our sawmill, I have my brickyard over here. That is going to be pretty close here to our clay pit, but once again, pretty close to our village kitchen, just again trying to maximize efficiency with still trying to maintain that little bit of symmetry here in my village. So one of the largest buildings here in our village is actually going to be the apple tree grove. So I'm just going to fire that up here above my two pumpkin patches and my village kitchen. I think it actually looks really nice in the base right there, and that also does mean we can go ahead and bring in our juice press. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to pop that right in here, and that looks absolutely awesome. So we have a few buildings here that actually tie directly into our village kitchen as their storage. So if you guys didn't know, you can go ahead, you can click on your village kitchen, you can click this little button right here, and that is going to show you all of the raw materials that will go into your pantry or your village kitchen. So you'll see we actually have apple juice right here, we have apples, and we have flour. So we want to make sure, of course, we have our apples from the apple tree grove right next to our kitchen, the juice press so that apple juice can go directly into our, once again, our village kitchen or our pantry, and then we have our windmill to produce that flour. Once again, that is going to go through into our village kitchen. So keeping them all pretty close to that main point of the village, which is, of course, the village kitchen. Now, I only have a handful of structures left to place down in this village, and once again, it does not matter where you guys place these. So we of course have the nectar fountain, the chicken coop, we have the beehive, and we have the village treasury, and we have all of our houses. It does not matter where you guys place these. You can use them like I'm gonna do, just to try and make your village look a little bit prettier. So this is what I ended up doing with all of my houses. I kind of had them in this little order. Now, of course, I actually have 9 houses, so we can't make it perfectly symmetrical. So I have 1 additional house over there on the left-hand side, whereas on this right-hand side, I only have 4. On the left-hand side, I have 5. But you guys can do whatever you want. This is totally up to you. Like I said, I was just trying to showcase what was the most efficient way to have your village. I wanted to have mine a mixture between efficiency and just a little bit of beauty, I guess, if that's the word to use. So I actually have a load of decorations that I have built up using those deco gems, not that you get that many of them, as well as my actual gems. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a speed build here and show you guys the final village in a little bit. there we have my final village. I don't know if I'm 100% happy with this. I might change a little bit here and there, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that speed build. Definitely going to have to speed that up quite a lot because I ummed and ahed between a lot of decisions. And if you guys have any advice for how I could make my village look a little bit better, definitely let me know down in the comments below. I've seen so many absolutely incredible builds. If you guys haven't already checked out my previous video talking about a village edit mode, 100% make sure you guys go and do so, because doing things like I've just done here would be made 100 times easier if we had a village edit mode. Plus, if you guys haven't already seen, in that video I showcased 2 or 3 absolutely extraordinary village layouts that I saw over on the Reddit, so make sure you guys go and check them out because they are truly unbelievable. But I will continue to buy things from the shop using those deco gems and using my gems as and when I see them, and hopefully in the future I might end up with an absolutely awesome village to show you guys. But for right now, this is what I've got, and hopefully you guys like it as much as I do. But until the next video, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.